Welcome, everybody, to the Coach Bryan Moore Show. I'm Clark Stewart, WHEP Radio, with the head coach of the Foley Lions, Coach Bryan Moore. And, Coach, been a few weeks since we visited last, and at that time it would have been about 7 weeks, I think, since you had come on board here as Foley Lions' new head football coach. A lot had happened over that span of time. Things haven't slowed down at all, right?
There's no doubt about it. I mean, we're on the grass now some in some off-season practices, but once again, it's about people and relationships, and we're continuing to develop those, all the time, and get to know our players and teachers, and continue to grow those and that trust that needs to be built. So our character program has started, and so we're getting our kids once a week to kind of go through making them better men and how we want to operate and do things, and skills that will last them not only through football but in life. So a lot going on, a lot to talk about, and excited about getting to spring ball here soon.
You mentioned the weekly practices. You get 2 hours a week, right? And
That's right.
brush us up on that again. I know you talked about it last time and how you use those 2 hours. You can use them a variety of ways.
Sure,
right?
it's mostly, you can't use pads or anything like that, and it's mostly skill development. But we've used that as much as we can. I think have had 6 of those, and so they've allowed us to really look at guys and how they move around and operate, and that's outside of strength and conditioning. So it allows us to see them on the field. Again, there are certain things you can't do, but ultimately for us, it's been a great preview, and allows us to understand our structure and the way that we practice in order to kind of have a seamless spring, or at least the best version of spring we can right now.
And it'll get a chance to get to know the kids, obviously, and kind of see them on the hoof, as they say, a little bit. You'll find out more here in a couple of weeks, and we'll talk about that just in a minute. But,
sure.
But as far as the Wednesday sessions, right, 2 hours on Wednesday afternoons is what you've been doing, I think, since you began doing that. You have one more of those left, right?
That's right. Yep. So, and then we'll have spring break. So really the way the calendar worked, we had Mardi Gras break, and then we had a 7-week time period between that break and spring break. And so that's given us an opportunity to sort of not necessarily switch gears from strength and conditioning. We always are going to do that and lift, but it allows us, again, to see them on the grass. There's a difference. Sometimes a guy that can move a lot of weight doesn't move very fast, and things like that we can see as they move around. So it's been good for our coaches. Anytime you're building a new staff as well to learn. I mean, it's not just the kids learning, but and not just our coaches that are here with a new staff coming in learning. It's me as well. What can a guy do? I've been able to kind of work around the field and watch guys coach, and so that's been great to see as well, and evaluate our staff also.
We're going to speak to your coordinators, your offensive and defensive coordinators here in just a minute. But if you can, just kind of go over your staff once again, because even I'm around it a pretty good bit, but I know that there have been some new additions and even some hires coming. If you're able to talk about the strength and conditioning program and those kind of things.
Sure, yeah. First, Coach Hunter's with us, and he'll be with us later in the show. He's done a great job so far, coming to us from Daphne. Great knowledge, and understanding of what we need to do, and then trying to find the pieces that fit that, and trying to evaluate the personnel and make it the best he can as well, and be able to put our kids in a position to be successful. We lost a lot on defense here last year, a great defensive group, and so some really good players, and so he's had to come in and sort of rebuild that, and of course along with Coach Stewart, Coach Brown, Coach Barnett, Sheldrick Cherry is with us, a guy that I coached that's now helping us coach, and that's really exciting to see a young man grow through this. So, we've been fortunate to keep some guys on, but again, Coach Hunter's done a really good job there. Offensively, Coach Atkins is with us today as well on the show. A couple of guys that are already here. Coach Wyndham is here handling our strength and conditioning right now. He will transition out of that role, and then we'll have a new person in place coming soon. And he's done a really good job for us with our offensive line specifically. Coach Jackson Billings is with us coaching receivers, done a great job. Coach Schofield coaching our running backs, Coach Gibson coaching our fullbacks, and will be our special teams coordinator as well. Hope I hadn't forgotten anybody. Coach Blevins is now with us. So, guys, I would say a good mix of guys that have been here that do a really good job, but also bringing in some guys that can sort of that understand the way we want to operate and that sort of thing, and been with me maybe in the past. So we're excited about sort of blending those two groups.
And a lot of team building, unity building with our junior Lions down at the middle school, right?
That too, yeah. Coach Pryor's done a great job of organizing that and helping us get guys here. As a matter of fact, this afternoon as we tape this show, when I get down to the field house, there'll be 65, 7th and 8th graders. So that's really encouraging. I think your numbers come from that. We've created a buzz, not only with our varsity, but also our middle school, and then on down to our youth programs. They've trained some on Sundays, and they are, coming out and just trying to get extra work. And I just want to be involved in all phases of that. We've got actually coming up in the next couple of days a transition with our youth, to new leadership. And our city getting involved in that some and sort of being a resource for us. So, again, we're excited about not only our varsity, but also working down to our younger guys.
And we talked about this the last time. Obviously, those things, those lower levels, the younger levels are important to your future, but to you personally, because your oldest son Parker is going to be on the varsity squad,
That's
practicing
right.
with the varsity right now, and I think Baker just turned teenager, right?
That's right.
Happy
Big
birthday
13,
to Baker!
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and your youngest
Tucker.
Thank
Yep.
you, is in that youth football age,
Yep.
right? So all those levels you have a big interest in.
Well,
personally.
it's really nice to have a younger staff, overall with some younger kids that we can be involved in those multi levels. For us that's been huge. And the dad part of me obviously is biased towards those groups, and you want your children to have the best experience.
Sure.
But I want that for all of Foley, and so for me, being involved in those Saturday morning games, those Thursday night middle school games, obviously the Fridays, the Mondays, JV and ninth grade, I will be at every football game in Foley next year, and whether I want to or not, it's we're going to be there, and my wife and I understand that that's what we signed up for, and having 3 boys of our own, kind of puts us in those modes, and not only boys but also our youth cheerleaders, and all those kids getting involved. We need it to grow. We need football to be cool again,
exactly.
and for kids to get involved, because it is a numbers game. You not only need players, but you need a lot of parents and a lot of resources to help make it work.
It's been, again, I know, a very busy time for you, your staff, your family. Still transitioning back and forth a bit from Opelika and your home up there. And this past weekend, Easter weekend,
Yeah.
I know you guys got a little time to get away,
Yeah.
and hope you and your family had a wonderful Easter.
Yeah, but the incredible things in our city, OI and different places like that have given us a lot of opportunities to do things. And several of my family members were down camping.
Yeah.
I think it's the Tropic Falls or something campground, and it's super nice. Just everything. My dad even said this weekend, he said, well, I didn't want you to leave, but if you went anywhere, I want you to go there, and just the quality of life experiences that Foley offers, and the amazing growth of our city, being able to spend Easter here, go to church here, and sort of, it's one thing to spend the work week here, but when you start spending weekends and you're doing stuff with your kids and going to the beach, and it's just it's a blessing to be here. And so Easter weekend was fun. It was a great experience for all of our family. It was exciting.
So the last final week of school before spring break. So you'll have that week there, and then when we come back from spring break, it's spring football time, right?
Exactly. And this week is a ton about planning. Like if you walk in my office right now, the entire board's full of, I feel like we have shows and different meetings and passing out equipment and all these kinds of things coming up. But it's exciting, though, to finally get the pads on. Because even the off-season practices that we've had, they're one thing, again, to get to see them on the grass. But it's another when, you got to stick your face in there. It's just a different deal.
Different level.
And it's, it takes a certain level of toughness. And so we're excited about, after spring break. And my coaches also that have transitioned down, I've talked to a lot of the wives and just said, you got to get through spring break, get through spring break. And then we've got 3 to 4 weeks of school left or so. We have a game to look forward to. We got graduation, and then the families will be here, and so that's exciting too, to sort of, it's tough when you're living away, but it's an exciting time to get to spring practice and, get to see those kids on the field. It'll be fun.
So how will spring practice work? How will you transition into that? Is there 2 or 3 sort of lighter days that are required, or has that changed any?
We have to go 3 days in helmet only.
Okay.
As far as movement, it's a heat acclimation, moving around with just helmets. But when we get into spring ball, we'll have 20 days to go to have 10 practices.
Okay.
So the cool part about that is we're able to spread those days out and go really every other day. And so that we're able to use those in-between days to do 2 things. One, evaluate film and really dig into that, have team meetings and do what we call championship plays, good and bad, that they put on film. And then secondly, we get to take our 8th and 9th grade, and all of our coaches coach them together. So all of our guys coach our middle school, and so there's a vertical alignment between our middle school and our high school that is irreplaceable, And so spring practice, I know a lot of coaches have, gone to earlier fall, have gone to, playing a jamboree game in the fall, that sort of thing. But for us, there is no more important time in football than spring because of the evaluation of kids as far as recruitment, and then also just the evaluation of your own team and your coaches. You get a trial run, then you get summer to fix it, right? And then you get fall camp. And so for me, that's a huge phase, very, very important.
Well, thank you. I'm a fan of that.
Yes, sir.
I'm really looking forward to the
Yes,
spring game in May 14th.
May 14th, that's right.
5 o'clock, right?
That's
It gets
right. So
underway
we'll play 4 levels. So the middle school or the 8th grade will inter squad, and that'll happen at 4 o'clock. Okay. At 5, our 9th grade will play Theodore. At 6, our JV will play Theodore, and at 7, our varsity will play Theodore. And it'll be a game. I mean, there's a, you have to have a ticket, but it's all walk. It's $5. It's just to support us through spring and buy practice jerseys. We won't make a ton of money, but helps us put a little something in the account. And so we'll have. It's just cool to see all of our levels play at one time. So we'll do that. We'll feed Theodore, send them on the way. That's a Thursday night. And then we'll be able to evaluate the film on Friday, and then we have graduation next week. So it's really the end of school.
And Theodore, Foley, for each other, a really, really good way to measure your teams and see where you are at the beginning of spring before you get into those summer workouts.
I had a coach text me and said, "You're jumping in the fire pretty quick, aren't you?" I said, "Theodore's got a great team. They have a new coach, and they'll do a great job." So we're excited about the challenge. Again, you want to play somebody that's really a quality opponent because it allows you to see your weaknesses. And it matters. You want to win those games, but ultimately we want to see what we need to improve on, and Theodore certainly challenges.
I'm going to bounce away from the on-field game for just a minute. You mentioned so many things that have just been progressing at a rapid pace. A lot of modifications and enhancements to the field house. Looks great there. And one of the things that you did was expand and knock out a couple of walls to make a real team meeting room, right? Talk about that.
It was important. I mean, the most important thing, literally, and I mean this to parents and the community, the most important thing I do is impact young men. I mean, ultimately, I've got a few guys that are coaching with me now that played for me as a coach, and our relationship and my relationship with their family matters. And so that team room allows us to build a character development program that's not cookie cutter, that we create. We feel like we're trying to hit the needs of our players based on the assessment that we've had so far. And it's been really good. We've had 3 character lessons, and we're going to have 1 per week that last about 30 minutes. But they really are the secret sauce, of our program, and they're the lifeblood of our program. And so for us to be able to knock those walls out, and and the Lipscomb family help us with that, and some of the I appreciate Doug very much, and the boosters and everybody, you and everybody involved, because those things matter to Miss Webb too, and her vision, to be able to put a conference room together for our coaches, to be able to help our offices look a little bit better, spruce it up, a nutrition room, a team room. Like that facility, the bones of it, Coach Watson's facility, nice. I mean, it's a great facility, but it needed a facelift a little bit. It needed to be painted and some walls knocked out, and so that we could use that space better. And so now we can fit almost 100 kids in our team room. We have 2 huge 100-inch TVs in there, and the kids get to hear a message, and we play video and stuff like that, stuff that they can pick up and retain. So it's been huge. All the facility upgrades, every one of them matter. It wasn't just to be pretty, it was to be able to use them effectively, and we think we've done that.
And another thing that's been a big focus has been nutrition, right? And you added I'm going to call it nutrition room, nutrition window, nutrition bar, and that's a big plus, and something that probably parents need to always keep in mind too, that we have that, but it needs to happen all the time, right? It's part of building muscle. And you mentioned that in the last program about how important it is in the game of football to feed that body, right?
Well, it's not only training, it's your sleep, and it's what you eat. I mean, you can't out-train a bad diet, period. Now none of us are perfect, and we're going to have a Big Mac every once in a while, But ultimately, if we can pump protein in our kids, hydrate them, give them those things that they need, those sandwiches. And I also want to, credit Walmart for some of the donations they've made. We really appreciate them. And there have been several others that have made donations to help us feed our kids. So every day our kids are getting protein shakes. They're getting peanut butter sandwiches, peanut butter and jellies. And we've seen kids, gain 10 to 20 pounds. And it's, we've got to be able to do that. So, again, vision of Miss Webb, she already had that done when I got here. But we're effectively using that nutrition area, I think, to the best of our ability. So we're excited about having it. We appreciate everybody that's gotten involved and helped, and the hands that have helped prepare this food. So we appreciate that also.
Back on the Coach Bryan Moore Show. Coach, great visiting with you. We appreciate the update and look forward to doing many more of these. When we get
Yes,
into
sir.
football, it'll be a weekly thing. When we get into regular football
Yes, sir.
season, and of course, when we circle back in spring, we'll look forward to some more updates. Wish you and your family all the best. When we come back, we'll visit with our offensive coordinator, Coach J.D. Atkins. Looking forward to that. We'll be right back on the Coach Bryan Moore Show.